The following BBD program is narrated by Cecil Periwinkle, BBC Historian Emeritus.
In the shadowed corridors of America's forgotten past, few genres shine as dimly as radio dance. Between 1933 and 1948, when families still sat cross-legged around wooden boxes that hummed faintly of static and patriotism, a generation listened. Yes, listened to dancing. Before TikTok, before Dancing with the Stars, before even the basic human desire to verify physical movement with the eyes, there was a nation spellbound by the sounds of feet. Feet, breathing, and the occasional movement.
And now, NBC proudly presents The Dancing Dobbins, the feet you can feel.
Mabel Dobbins, one half of the Dancing Dobbins, along with longtime dance team partner Skip McDaniel, had this to say about the Dancing Dobbins in a Decca archival interview in 1962.
Radio audiences were rapt. We couldn't see a thing, my fans would say. I remember in 41, we did a piece called The Sorrow of Spring. It was all floor work, emotionally. It was one of those longer shows at the start of the war. I got the idea for dragging my feet in morning loops while Skip subbed quietly into his elbow. I made sure at the end of the day it was about the Jews. But I think listeners in Milwaukee really felt that.
Well, Mabel has a point there. When I wasn't openly sobbing, I was using the silence deliberately. There were 5 full minutes where we didn't move. The sponsor thought the station went off the air. We were conveying, and I don't expect everyone to grasp this, stillness as resistance, political stillness, movement as anti-movement. I mean, obviously now it would play very differently. Not that we'd endorse sabotage, though technically that broadcast was sabotaged by art. I remember Mabel passed me a note while we were dancing saying, "Skip, do you last?" And I whispered, "Like what? I already stopped breathing." She thought it was one of our strongest shows. Hey, if I passed you a note on this toilet paper right now, do you think you could get it out to the right people?
They believed in the impossible, that the cha-cha could be heard, that a tango could be felt through static, that two people dragging their feet across linoleum in Dubuque, Iowa, could stir the nation's soul. For audiences of the time, the experience was visceral. The footwork, the faint wheezing, the ever-present sense of mild confusion.
Our finale, Le Danse de Bureau, was a postmodern commentary on office life.
Glenda shares a room in an upstate retirement home with Lorne Cagney, her one-time dance partner and part-time underwater movement coach.
We ballroom danced on typewriters. Lorne fell into a filing cabinet, but we left it in. The bruising was part of the metaphor.
We believed in oral choreography. I'd enter in 5th position, audibly of course, pivot on my heel, and execute a melancholy tracé with my shoelaces untied for vulnerability. People heard that.
But how did this bewildering phenomenon arise? Perhaps it began with a puppet.
If we talk like that, we're going to be here all day.
Yeah, well, that's what you say.
Well, that's what I'm planning on doing.
Oh, yeah, look at you. Are you making fun of me? It seems like your lips are moving.
Okay, that's fine.
Yes, ventriloquist Edgar Bergen and his wooden sidekick Charlie McCarthy, a ventriloquist act on the radio. The art of not seeing someone's lips move, lovingly preserved in an entirely invisible medium. It was only natural, then, that dancers followed. If a dummy could become a star, why not a dancer? And so was born the radio dance team.
Oh, and then people say, Clarence, I think I listen to you dance every Friday night.
Clarence Klomper.
Yes, Clarence Klomper. You need to interrupt me to say my name?
Clarence?
Klomper. Yes, we've established that. I'm still me. They got it.
Yes, it's an audio documentary. We have to identify the speaker, or no one knows who's talking.
Well, I know who I am. I'm right here, talking, in a chair. Evocative enough, pal?
Listeners can't see you, Clarence Klomper.
And they never needed to. Anyway.
Clarence Klomper.
Oh, they got it! You said it 3 times now. I'm Clarence Klomper. Unless someone else is in the room, also Clarence Klomper, I think we're safe.
It's just standard format, Clarence.
And I'd say to anyone, look, my back went out after 4 years of dancing for hours on the radio. For you, whether you heard it or not. Now that is commitment. That's theater of the feet.
Though audiences never saw him perform, Clarence Klomper insisted his presence was unmistakable.
I wore this custom windbreaker to create stage presence. It rustled in a very recognizable way.
The golden age of radio birthed dozens of duos, including...
Tune in tonight for Midge and Crumb, the Tango Twins!
Not actually twins.
This Saturday, the Foxtrot Furies. 2 men, 4 shoes. The costumes, the regrets.
Then stay tuned for Big Tony 2 Feet Marchese in Feet of Fire, Coast to Coast.
They called me 2 Feet. Big Tony 2 Feet. Because I had, well, just the 2 feet, mine. But I made them count. Solo. Was it flamenco? Not exactly. Someone who saw it years later said it was more like angry stepping. But with rhythm, goddammit! No, I'm not bitter. Why do you keep asking?
These were not just dancers. They were warriors of sound, the gladiators of linoleum, the champions of mild exertion.
People ask me, Tony, how were you able to connect with audiences so well and for so long when they couldn't see you? I say, through the feet. I did a triple stomp ronde jambe that night Roosevelt got elected. Women wrote in saying they were damp. Might have been the fog of war, but I like to think it was the ronde. And this...
The studios had to be quiet so that you, the radio audience, could really hear the dance moves. No audience, no applause, just a mic, the sounds of music in the other room, and shoes. It was a thing. With me is Mr. Neville Spon, former sound technician for many radio dance programs. Neville, thank you for joining us here in the pub.
What?
Thank you for joining us here in the pub.
Oh, pleasure, Cecil. Always happy to be partially remembered.
Now, you held quite the title, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. I was for many years a senior associate assistant technician of auditory rhythmic documentation, which is a posh way of saying I sat in an empty room with a microphone and waited for the feet to express themselves. The golden era of radio dancing, like the rhythmic footfall hour or dance time, when nothing bloody happened, and I heard every inch of it.
What was the appeal of radio dancing?
Nobody knows. But it was very popular, with the visually imaginative and the profoundly stupid. We had all sorts, tangos, foxtrots, occasionally a rogue conga, just the rhythmic shuffle of shoes on lino broadcast directly into the nation's parlours. Listeners said it made them feel as though dancing was happening somewhere nearby, but out of sight.
I imagine it required a certain technical finesse.
Oh, absolutely. Most people don't realise how technical it is. Recording the sounds of people in the audience not being there, recording the absence of applause, the rustle of cloth, capturing the gentle disappointment in the air. Oh, there's artistry involved, a lot of precision.
Did you always understand producer Sid Gernsback's vision?
No, not at first. Obviously, music would have covered up the important sounds, the bodies gyrating and dancing, the exertion, the breathing, and of course, the shoes, marked individually, left and right, that sort of thing. One woman wrote me and said she learned a foxtrot just from listening. That was the proudest moment of my career. Right there.
Yes. Well, was there a moment where, as a recording engineer, you thought this might not work?
Well, every day, really. You want to know the moment that broke me? It was the interpretive intermission. 30 minutes of not entering a room. Just the idea that someone might and never did. And I recorded it, proudly.
And now, Neville, you're retired.
And what?
Now, Neville, you're retired.
I'm retired?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Of course I am. I'm deaf as a lamppost now. Have been since 1943. Didn't notice it at first. Thought the dancers had just grown subtle.
An extraordinary legacy. Neville Spon, thank you for your service to Sonic Footfalls.
What?
Thank you for your service, Neville.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Cecil. You're wearing very recordable shoes, if I might say. Cecil? Where'd he go? Oh, those were really lovely shoes. I wanted to get the sound of that.
Dorothy Dottie Sweeney of the self-proclaimed greatest dance team radio has ever known spoke about it in this rare interview unearthed from the children's network show Gertie, the Milkroom Ghost.
Gertie, Gertie, Milkroom Ghost.
Call me Dottie, you little darlings, all of you. The radio dance shows never had a live audience in the studio because they might make noise. Oh, but the connection I and my various dance partners had with our little radio audience was palpable. Like this moment, you wonderful children. I always made sure to wear my finest gown. Rhinestones, fringe, the whole lot, even for the Wednesday matinees. You never knew who might be listening. It was so difficult to find a dance partner I really had chemistry with in those days.
Yeah, she did it backwards and in heels. Bitch, I mean. She was a bitch. There, I said it.
Children's show, Edgar. Oh, don't tell me you got Edgar in here to interview about me, too.
How could you not know? Interview me about you, about us. I'm sitting right here with you. What's wrong with you?
I'm just surprised. Of all the men I danced with, that they asked you to talk about it.
All the others committed suicide.
That is not true.
Yes, it is, Dorothy.
No. One gentleman paid someone to kill him.
Gertie, Gertie, Milkroom Ghost.
Dorothy was what we'd call in the business an independent tempo unit. Never the same rhythm twice. Sometimes not even during the same dance. In our radio show in 1948, she did an entire paso doble on her knees, said it was her commentary on masculinity. I had to crawl behind her like a sad crab. Her idea, of course, and the arms. Good Lord, the arms. She flailed like she was trying to fight off a bat. I'd say, Dorothy, love, this is a waltz. And she'd say, art has no meter, Edgar.
Radio audiences thought I was elegant.
Because you fooled them.
Every Saturday night show, I did a grand jeté. You can't prove I didn't.
As Gil Stratham, editor of Highbrow Digest, put it, they were not performers, they were conjurers of sonic illusion. You didn't watch them dance, you endured it. You can't see it, but I'm holding up a recently discovered interview from Home Flooring Lifestyle magazine with Bobby Big Breath Mulligan, former member of the Silver Souls and self-proclaimed radio dance personality, 1940s to 1950s. In 1974, Mulligan revealed his feelings about the radio dance movement.
I still don't get it. I love dancing on the radio. No makeup, no judgment, no mirrors. You know, people don't listen anymore. They're all about seeing. Show me this. Look at that. When I danced, people had to imagine what was happening. That's powerful. That is art. And also, to be fair, we didn't have the budget for pants most weeks. Just you, the floor, and a really good pair of shoes that make noise when you move. I mean, sure, television came along and phooey television, you know, and people say, Bobby, people want to see the dancing now. And I said, why? That's creepy. On the radio, it was theater of the feet. I came up with that terminology. So if you use it, you guys got to pay me. Pay me. No, seriously, I used that term just now. If this airs, that's a check. Cha-ching. You had to imagine the grace, the turns, the other stuff. Sometimes I didn't even dance. I just breathed rhythmically and let the shoes do the storytelling. That was the Mulligan breath. Smell that? Still got it.
The interview never aired before now because Home Flooring Lifestyle magazine didn't want to pay Mulligan the extravagant $250,000 terminology fee he was charging for theatre of feet trademark usage. Ah yes, Bobby Mulligan was what those in the academic field call committed, as in should be. Mulligan's signature move, the Mulligan finish, often involved falling into scenery and apologising to furniture. Audibly. At 67 years old, he famously proposed a radio-only dance competition in 1978. It featured 12 dancers, no judges and a scorekeeper, who shot himself during round 2. But one must admire the man's spirit, much like one admires a goose who thinks it's flying a plane. Until the early 2000s, he hosted a weekly AM radio broadcast from his garage called You Can't See This, But It's Brilliant. And in a way, he's right. You can't see it, and that's probably for the best.
My dance partner, Roger Crumb, had the silent expression, which meant he mostly stood still and blinked loudly. I once spun past him 14 times in a row, and he simply nodded and said that was emotive. He thought dancing was mental, and frankly, it showed.
We spoke with radio historian and vibrologist Trev Codlington about the phenomenon of the radio dance genre.
Dancing is all about sound. Feet are like drums with knees on top. And radio was the original surround sound. Radio dance teams, absolutely fascinating period. A cultural moment when people willingly tuned in, sometimes in large numbers, to hear two people move around a room. In those days, imagination was half the experience. You didn't need to see someone doing the cha-cha. You just needed to hear their shoes go cha-cha. The great teams like the whispering toes, the elegant elbows, entire routines performed in what they called the suggestive quiet. Which is to say, nothing really happened. But nothing really happened beautifully.
Professor Doris Mabel Mabby Smoot Havisham, Fellow of the Royal Academy of Kinetic Silence.
As a noted expert on audio-based movement, vintage floorboards, and the forgotten acoustics of enthusiasm, I am recreating the dance of Mildred Pants and Lester Doof, the Whispering Toes. They revolutionized inaudible motion on the airwaves from 1935 to 1940. Their signature style, low-impact drift ballet. Their philosophy, don't move too much. The microphone is sensitive. See?
Audio dancing has declined a bit, admittedly. But to scholars like myself, it remains a golden age of barely audible footwork. I think it will be back. I mean, with the podcast, the TikToks, you name it. I mean, people watch videos of folks eating soup now. You're telling me they won't tune into a good heel-toe shuffle and a man whispering pirouette once every 6 minutes?
But then came the fall. In 1951, disaster struck, when a live television feed of their final radio broadcast revealed that the beloved Fleur and Jean-Paul were not French at all. In fact, they were just one retired part-time shoe repairman, wearing a beret made of papier-mâché and cottage cheese, who tap-danced entirely with tiny shoes on his hands. The rise of television posed a terrible threat to the genre. Visibility. The visual ruined the illusion. Shoe repairman Harold Dumit, 61, seen here frantically performing the signature miniature hand-tap routine during an April 15, 1958 live television broadcast. Harold, appearing as Phyllis Fleur Dumit, the wireless radio star, attempted to evoke the spirit of Paris on camera, brandishing a spatula and yelling omelette at his non-existent partner, Jean-Paul. Moments later, the illusion of continental elegance collapsed entirely. As one avid listener, Myrtle Finkelbaum, wrote in a stern letter to CBS Audience Relations,
Dear Sirs, I have been faithfully listening to Fleur and Jean-Paul every Thursday at 8 p.m. for the past 6 years. I bought a chaise lounge. I smoked cloves. I learned to pronounce bourgeois. I even married a man named Jacques. His real name was Ken, but I made him wear a scarf. Imagine my horror when I saw on my new RCA console not the ethereal waltz of continental lovers as I'd listened to on the radio, but a sweaty, pockmarked man with shoes on his hands, flapping like a frightened duck, screaming crepes into a kitchen strainer. I am demanding a refund. For what, I'm not sure. Possibly time, possibly dignity. Forever disappointed, Madame Finkelbaum.
As one critic for the Atlantic Tones in June of 1958 put it,
in the stark silence following the radio dance team's final show, I felt I was witnessing the death of an art, or possibly the beginning of a nervous condition. Their work, while unwatchable, did question the viewer's very notion of watchability, a bold, if completely accidental, statement. The Golden Age radio dance teams may have been frauds, but they were sincere frauds, and in an era of televised insincerity, that may be the most dishonest thing of all.
Sid Gernsback was the creator, producer, and self-declared visionary behind Dance Time. Though critically maligned, Sid maintains a controversial outlook, as heard here in the 1970s expose, Stand By for Disaster.
First of all, let's just set the record straight. Dance Time was not a failure. Never was. Okay? By certain metrics, certain very sophisticated, very untraceable metrics, it was the #1 rated radio show featuring exclusive, non-voyable, unvisualized partner movement in the 8:15 to 8:30 slot on Tuesdays. Now, did people understand the concept? No. Was it ahead of its time? Absolutely. Did sponsors call in confused? They said, "Sid, what are we listening to?" And I said, "Exactly." But the problem, and let's be clear, the problem was not the format. The problem was America. People got lazy. They wanted to see everything. Suddenly it's all moving pictures, and where's the plot, and why is this man just breathing into a shoe? I've produced a lot of radio for the majors. Let's watch Roger think. Kids loved that, they tell me. Still didn't do better than Dance Time. Compared to my other shows, Dance Time was a blockbuster. It had rhythm. It had heart. It had absolutely no visuals to get in the way. What's that smell? Radio's voiced, fully scent-based narrative. We described smells so vividly it gave people olfactory flashbacks. Episodes like Point Toast, Trolley Grease, Aunt Sheila's Carpet Minge. But no one got it. One listener hallucinated gravy for a week. Then there was dramatic cough theater. I thought coughing, it's relatable. It's human. But turns out people also weren't ready for 22 minutes of chesty wheezing or Tolstoy. My wife, Chesty, was in that one.
I did 87 radio shows with Sid, possibly more. Some were very quiet. Sid always said I had a voice that could melt vinyl, and I did. Literally in Dance Time, I played a mysterious Spanish dancer with no lines. I just jingled softly in the background and exhaled with purpose.
Look, Chesty wasn't just a dancer. She was a radio burlesque icon. She could take off a glove and you'd hear it blush.
In 1952, I produced and starred in my own groundbreaking television program, Chesty at Midnight, which critics described as boldly inaudible. It was a sultry half hour of me sitting in total darkness, occasionally sighing, opening envelopes, and reacting to letters that were never read aloud. Sid said, "Chesty, we can't see or follow anything." And I said, "Exactly. It's television for the imagination." It was canceled after one episode, but I maintain it was 10 years ahead of its time and 15 behind radio.
We were sweaty, but we made people believe they could hear a dream.
Then television came in and, like, all of a sudden, everybody saw everything. I mean, I'm not that good a dancer. You could see it. You could see me. The whole thing. All of us. It was over for all of us. Television really killed radio dancing. And we definitely saw that coming. more than anyone else saw the dancing.
When I saw myself on TV for the first time, I screamed. Turns out I'd been doing the Charleston backwards for 8 years. Crumb just stood there clapping.
We weren't the best or even good, but by God, we were on the radio, and no one could prove we weren't dancing.
Though invisible, they imagined themselves beacons of feeling, every step a sonnet, every slide a shared secret. And though no one saw them, no one cared either. They danced like no one was watching, because no one was. And we listened.
I always say, keep your heels light and your imagination louder than your shoes.
Today, all that remains are a few dusty acetate reels, 2 surviving members of the Elegant Elbows, and a monthly gathering in Cincinnati, where retirees remember a time when America closed its eyes and listened to feet. They moved, we imagined, and somewhere between the two, art very nearly happened. Join us next week for Mimes for the Blind, an audible tribute, and Accordion Wars, the soundtrack of silence. Until then, keep listening, and remember there was a time when all you needed was a floorboard, a pair of shoes, and a nation willing to believe it meant something.
Come feel the beat. Trust us to say they're dancing good, or at least okay. You can't see it, but I'm so boy, they move so blindly, it's quite the show. Come feel the beat. Trust the same, 'cause that's good. Trust us.